Oh, hey there, Fernie. What's up, darling? Are you enjoying a nice hay snack? Hey, little ladies. Come here. Oh, big stretch. Apparently that rule applies to sheep too. Anytime you see a cat or a dog stretching, you have to just say, oh, big stretch. It's like a rule. Hey, lovely. Oh, there we go. Did y'all say it? Oh, big stretch. Hey, cutie. Hey, guys. Welcome back to Roots Refuge Farm. Exciting news on the sheep front. I wanted to tell you guys about. Came out here. It is cold here. Today is actually cold. It's not just frost under flower cold. It's like cold by anybody's standards. All right, into the barn with gobs of pumpkins everywhere. The feed order came in. It comes in pallets because we have a lot of animals. All right, guys, in the nice, not quite warm, but somewhat less cool than outside in the breeze barn. And I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of where we are with animals and kind of how, if you're new here, how we got here. The pasture roosters are going to come and be my backup chorus for this. So we previously lived on 4.1 acres in Arkansas. We had family that lived next door to that property that had 3 acres, so we were working with about 7 there. And then we moved to South Carolina 2.5 years ago, and we have 27 acres here. And since, we've developed a relationship with our neighbor, and we have access to about 60 that we use for cutting hay, that we do run some animals on, that we're going to continue to run animals on, working with our neighbor. So we have a lot more space here, obviously. In Arkansas... He's like, talk about the chickens. In Arkansas, we had chickens. Not nearly as beautiful roosters as these guys are. But we had chickens. We raised some meat chickens. We'd raised meat turkeys. We had hogs, and we bred and raised hogs for meat. And we had goats that we kept for dairy. We had our alpacas there. And we had horses, but with the horses, we had a lease of land next door that we primarily kept them on. And you gotta remember, like when we got into homesteading, we had no clue what we were doing. I mean, we have really learned as we've gone. And our hope has always been that we would just know better and do better, and we're continuing to do that. When we moved to South Carolina, we had all these pastures, and we had all this grass that we'd never had before. And so we decided to get our first cow. We got a Jersey dairy cow a couple months after being here. And I was also going through a bit of a health crisis at that time. My health was declining greatly, and I had just put my goats out on pasture. I did not have the capacity to work with them a lot, and they were really not getting the care that they needed. And we really didn't need what they had to offer so much because we had the cow. So we ended up rehoming our goats. And I would say probably within a year of getting here, we really reassessed our farm. And like we reassessed our goals. We started thinking about exactly what we wanted to do. And we decided that what we really wanted to do is mostly lean into being more sustainable, but also thriving in the meantime, if you will. So we bought a starter herd of beef cattle. They're Devons. They're a dual purpose breed, which can be used for beef or milking. They're not optimum for either, but our hope was that potentially we could develop something great as far as a good homestead cow. We felt like they would be a good option. And then we knew that the bull, seeing as how Devons are kind of on the smaller side, we could use him to cover our Jersey cows. So we had Jersey cows. We chose the Jersey breed because of their high butterfat content, and we wanted to thrive in the meantime and not have to go to the grocery store as much. So with our Jerseys, we're able to provide butter and sour cream and ice cream and lots of the things that we were purchasing at the store, as well as obviously milk. We did not want to keep a Jersey bull because they are notoriously crazy, and we just did not want to go there. So the Devon bull can get the Jerseys pregnant, which can keep them in milk. Those babies, being Jersey Devon crosses, could be used for milking or could be used for meat. And then the Devon calves, we can keep the females to grow the herd and keep the males to put in the freezer and use for beef. So this was our plan. It's what we stepped into. The Devons are 100% grass-fed. We do supplement grain a little bit on the milk stanchion for our Jersey dairy cows. You can get 100% grass-fed Jerseys. They typically cost a lot more because they need to be genetically disposed to that. And ours weren't. Ours were all started from grain when they were really small. And so you can't just cut the grain off of a cow who has been dependent on that. They're not going to just necessarily keep condition no matter what. And we decided that was fine. We didn't mind. We give non-GMO grain. We give them. That was kind of that balance between sustainable. The 100% grass-fed beef was the sustainable option because grass is going to grow with the sunshine and with the rain. The Jerseys were kind of the compromise to that. Obviously, we're dependent on a feed store, but it does give us the freedom from a grocery store right now. A lot of people who do 100% grass-fed dairy don't get as much cream, and therefore a lot of them have to supplement their groceries from the grocery store or use less butter and ice cream and sour cream and all the stuff that we didn't really want to use less of. So we assessed, when we were looking at what we wanted to do, we decided to cut back our pig numbers really greatly, and raising the beef on grass was the more sustainable option rather than continuing to raise a lot of hogs and a lot of pork on grain. Now, we still do have a breeding pair of hogs, and we are still raising a couple out a year, namely to do charcuterie and to smoke and to do stuff like that, and then have some pork. But we're looking at, in the future, our number one source of protein being the beef, because it's growing out on grass, which is the more sustainable option. The hogs are set up out in the woods in electric fences so that they can pasture through the woods. We do raise birds seasonally, so we have laying hens all the time. We have the loud pasture roosters. They're just for decoration. And, I guess they probably scratch through and eat the bugs out in the pasture. That's not why we have them. And then during the months that it is the healthiest for the birds, namely early spring, late fall, we raise chickens, turkeys, and ducks. So we settled all of that out. We cut down our hog numbers very significantly. We processed a lot of the extra hogs, and now whenever we have a litter of piglets, we don't keep a bunch of them. We keep one or two, and then we sell the weaners for other people to raise. The cattle are multiplying. The herd has over doubled since we got it, which is really cool. However, our plan in the future, hopefully, I really think we'll get to it this spring. We hope to get to it this summer, and we just did not. It never got to the highest part of the priority list. However, we're running out of options because the pasture is really too small for them. Doesn't matter as much right now because the grass isn't growing that much. They're on hay right now anyway. But our plan is to set up electric electric fences, wires, next door. It's multiple strand wire electric fence, and it'll run on solar energizers. And we plan on pasturing the beef cows through the pastures next door. The main pasture out here, we plan on splitting that up and running the dairy cows through out here. There's another factor that we decided we wanted to get into as far as animals. We wanted to raise sheep. So if you've done any research about like regenerative agriculture and pasturing animals, sheep and cows have a really cool symbiotic relationship in that the parasites that plague cows will die in the digestive tract of sheep, and the parasites that plague sheep will die in the digestive tract of cows. And so when they share spaces, or when the sheep come behind the cows into spaces, it can really help manage the overall parasite load in the soil of your pastures. Also, sheep can be largely grown on grass. You can do some supplemental grain or input, but they are a sustainable animal to grow as far as a meat source. So I did a lot of research on sheep and was considering multiple different breeds. And of course, Dorpers and Katahdins are two meat breeds of sheep that are very readily available. I find them a lot, but I have a tendency to want to try things that are maybe a little less easy to get. And I had decided that I wanted to raise St. Croix sheep. But I wanted to be very specific about where I got my St. Croix sheep because I wanted animals that had been managed as organically and naturally as possible. We are not purists when it comes to that. I'll tell you that if it comes down to a life and death situation, I will chemically treat my animals. That's a personal choice. If you decide to be strictly natural in your approaches, more power to you. For me, it kind of comes down to that whole supplementing grain to get more cream to not have to go to the grocery store. It's just what works best for us in our situation. Those kind of choices are always made at the cost of sustainability to a certain degree. Because if, for whatever reason, let's say there was some sort of catastrophic event and I did not have access to the feed store, obviously my dairy operation would, to a certain degree, fall apart. And we have a plan for that. Like if I could no longer get feed, if it were a short-term issue, my Jersey cows, we would dry them off and we would put them out on pasture. And they would just eat grass and they would just go cow for a while. And we would not breed them. We would not put them back into milk. And that would be a holding period for a little while. And then if we got access to grain again, we could breed them again and go back into the dairy operation. If there was a really long-term situation where it was obvious we were not going to have grain anymore, like ever, or at least for a long period of time, the Jersey cows would be processed. They would become meat animals. Probably not immediately, obviously. We call it putting them on the shelf. When you put them out to cow, where they're just going to eat grass, like it's not taking that much when you have lots of pastures. You can do that. So it's not an emergency thing for us. It's kind of like, okay, well, we can do this less sustainable option to thrive in the meantime because we have this backup plan. Now the sheep, I decided I wanted to do the St. Croix. They are actually part of the Slow Food Arc of Taste. It's a breed of sheep that are heralded for having really great flavored meat. They are slower growing. So if you're trying to go for the most efficiency, they're not the ones to go with. But they are typically known as being really hardy. And because I wanted to go as organically as possible, I want sheep that can hang with that. Essentially, if you go and get any old sheep that have been chemically treated for parasites their entire life, and their parents were, and their parents were, and their parents were, they don't have any natural born resistance to that. And so you can't just go buy any animal and say, okay, I'm going to manage organically. Like you can't do that. It's not going to work out well. You're going to have a great measure of loss. I didn't finish my thought, but like when I say, when it comes down to a life or death situation, I'll chemically treat. I will use a chemical dewormer. I will use an antibiotic. I will use those things in a situation that to save the animal. Every bit of that you do, you take a step away from the generational resistance. Meaning, if you create the dependence on chemicals in your animal from repeated use, eventually, if you no longer have access to the dewormer, to the antibiotics, to the stores or the vet that does the different things, whatever, then you're no longer sustainable. You need those things. It's creating dependence instead of resilience. So it's a fine line to walk, don't get me wrong. Like And I hope that we walk it well. I don't know. I'm sure there are times that people look at what we do and say they would have done it differently, and they can in their application. But with the St. Croix, I really wanted to go with a breed like that was a heritage breed. I wanted to find sources that they had generationally been handled in a natural way so that I had the best chance to walk that fine line well here on my farm. So I was presented with the opportunity last fall. I found a person that had 2 St. Croix ewe lambs that were available, Tilly and Ramona, the 2 that we have, and we went and picked them up. They were raised by their moms. I guess I'm so used to goat language that y'all hear me say the wrong thing. It's not dam raising. Is it dam raising is it ewe raising whenever it's sheep? I should know that. But they had been raised by their mom, so they were real wild. They were really unhandled. And so we got them, and we kept them in the stall of the barn over the winter in a double stall with hay. And we spent every day out here with them. And now they're very sweet. They let us handle them. But they are also now at breeding age. So it has been in our plan for a while now to expand the sheep operation some. I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to do that. When you want to expand an operation, you can go about it a number of ways. I could get a ram, I could breed them, keep any ewes, process any ram lambs, and keep any ewe lambs. But then when those ewes grow up, to bring in genetic diversity, I would need to locate another ram. And so I could very slowly build my flock that way by breeding and keeping females. And that would grow it over the course of the years. Or I could obviously buy some more ewes, and that would grow the flock quickly. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do because, again, I'm not in any massive rush. We are planning on getting into the rotational grazing, this coming year. We'll get that set up. And with that, I would like to have some sheep that I can move around behind my cattle. I would like to do that. But I also I'm not desperate. I'm not going to just go buy a breed of sheep that I don't want. I'm not going to buy sheep that have been managed in a way that I don't want to perpetuate on my farm. So it's been kind of a casual look. Now, I have been actively looking for a ram to breed Tilly and Ramona. And I didn't know if that was going to be finding someone who had a ram that I could basically pay a stud fee or what. I was just actively looking for the option. And this is where comes in the beautiful benefit of having a YouTube channel with a really large reach. You guys help me solve so many of my issues, which I'm so thankful for. What this is for me is I just have such a wide community. I mean, I learned so much from you guys. And when I say I'm looking for a ram, you guys look for rams for me, or if you know of one, you let me know. And I had a viewer reach out to me on Instagram and say, hey, I heard you were looking for a St. Croix ram. I have a friend that has St. Croix sheep, and they're actually, because of some life circumstances, are actually looking to liquidate their flock. So I messaged this lady and ended up talking on the phone to her and kind of getting all the information. And I've got the notes lined out for a video that I was going to make talking about goat shopping, because I'm goat shopping. That's another thing entirely. I've shared with that in depth why we're doing that. The Cliff's Notes is my health is better. I miss my goats. That's all you need to know. That's the bottom line, the most important thing. But there are the common situations. If you want really good animals that have been managed very well and that are bred well and just overall very healthy, good lines, most always you're going to obtain those animals, like the great animals, the top line animals, by buying babies. Maybe freshly weaned babies, but most always you're going to have to go to a good breeder and get very young animals and then put your time investment in raising them up to breeding age and then breed them, and then they grow your flock or herd or whatever it is, whatever animal you're talking about. Now, you can also sometimes buy older animals, but in most cases, if a person is managing their animals really well and keeping them in a very conscientious way and doing all of that stuff, when they decide, when they look at their flock and they go, those are the two that I'm going to get rid of, they're their lowest quality animals, or they're older. Occasionally, they're trying to diversify their bloodlines, so they're not necessarily their lowest quality, but maybe they have too much of that bloodline. So occasionally that can be like a unicorn animal, a really great animal, but a lot of times you're getting a little bit of issues. Not necessarily that you're getting problems, but you're not getting the best that somebody has, which is fine. That's just the nature of it. A lot of times when people are like, I'm selling this one, it is because there is a problem. So you have to ask a lot of questions. Why are you selling this animal is a really good question to ask anytime. Now, sometimes you come across situations where a person is just getting out of those animals. Like our cows. We got our cows because the people we bought them from were deciding to travel a lot, and it really wasn't the right season of life for them to have the cattle. And they told us when they were getting out of the cows that they plan on down the road getting back into that same breed of cows once they had taken their time and done their traveling and rebuilt some fences and kind of taken a break and regrouped. They were going to get back into them, and they even told us, we may contact you to be able to get some of these lines back. So we knew we were getting really great animals. It's one of the reasons we got the beef cows when we did, because it was the breed we wanted. They'd been managed how we wanted, and we knew that they were solid animals. There wasn't like a problem that they were being rehomed or sold. And I was presented with this opportunity this last couple weeks to basically procure 4 St. Croix ewes and an unrelated St. Croix ram from someone who has been completely organically managing them. They live an hour away from here, so the sheep are acclimated to our climate. They're not related to the sheep that I currently have. Jeremiah and I talked about it. We looked at our plan. It was not an impulsive decision. We just decided, okay, we've been given this very beautiful, this unique opportunity to grow our flock exactly how we want to. So I purchased 5 sheep this week. That's the bottom line of that entire spiel. That was a long spiel, but maybe you learned something from it. Oh, the sunshine feels so nice. So I'm really excited. I told her that, we're working out schedules. It's the holidays and all of that stuff. I'm not 100% sure when we're going to go pick them up. I sent her the deposit to lock them in, that they're mine. And we're going to go pick them up probably sometime this weekend. And for now, they're just going to be over in this pasture next to the barn because they're on hay anyway. It's the time of year that's what they're going to be eating. And then this way they have the barn stall for shelter. Cows don't have, they need to be able to kind of get underneath trees or something to get out of the rain. But we were so worried when we first got cows, trying to give them shelter, and then we look outside and it's like hailing and they're standing in the rain. That's just cows. They don't care. But with sheep or goats, they can be wet. They can be cold. They do not need to be cold and wet. So they really need shelter. And so we're thinking here, giving them access to a stall for shelter. And then when we start with our rotational grazing, oh, that was my hollering at bear. We are thinking when we start the rotational grazing, the sheep will go behind that. So I am so excited because not only am I going to be getting back into goats, so I'll be able to milk goats regularly, we're also going to have lambing season next spring. Oh my goodness. I've always said I don't think that there's a cuter animal on a farm than a baby goat, but if it had a rival, it would be a lamb. So I know somebody's going to ask, because I've been crocheting so much lately and talking about crocheting season. I do have a spinning wheel. I do have some alpacas. We shear them once a year. I have spun fiber. I actually just got my spinning wheel out a couple days ago. Maya pulled it in with the Christmas decorations. And I'm really, it's just the time of year that I get to do all of my crafty things because the garden's not out there taking so much time. The type of sheep we have, St. Croix sheep, they're hair sheep, so they're not sheared. Their fiber is not used for making like yarn or anything like that or doing any sort of wool crafting. I love the idea in the future of having fiber sheep or potentially even a fiber goat. Like, I love that idea. I think that right now it would be very foolish of me to try to bite off that. The sheep themselves are not going to add a lot of workload to what we're already doing. Like, we're already caring for these 2 ewes, so adding 4 more plus the ram, it is an addition. It is a little bit more work, but we're not gonna demand a whole new system. We're getting these now, and I'm waiting to get goats for another couple months. I found some goats, but I'm waiting to get them because we have to build a whole system for the goats. Whereas the sheep, we've kind of got something worked out for them. But for fiber animals, that would be a whole new system. We already do get the alpacas sheared once a year, and I'm not looking for a whole new system right now. So for the time being, I will support other fiber artists who are creating yarn, and if I decide I want to spin wool, I can buy the fiber from somebody, and that's fine. That's my toxic trait, I'll tell you right now, is, and I say this in jest, but I call it a toxic trait because I have to talk me down regularly. My toxic trait is I can do that. I could do that myself. Everything. Like all the time I'll look at something and be like, I think I could do that myself. Now, the question that I have to regularly ask myself is it worth it to try to do that by yourself? Because a lot of times it's not. A lot of times, instead of creating a whole new system and whole new animals and a whole new workload, sometimes you just need to say, I'll buy that fiber from somebody else, whatever it is, whatever the whole new thing is. Sometimes it's best to just support someone else in doing well what they already have the systems to do. So no wool in the immediate future. However, I could very much see, as I continue to grow in shepherding with my sheep, and as I get back into the groove with a very small goat herd, that down the road, and probably when I do not have so many kids in the house that I'm having to feed, I want some of my workload now to like naturally diminish before I add something else like that. So I could definitely see 15 years from now, 10 years from now, when my older children are out, when my younger children are older, a little more self-sufficient, I could definitely see getting into something like that, because I love fiber. It's just I'm trying to talk down. I'm trying to talk down DIY Jess. It's necessary, I promise you. One thing that I love about a situation like the one that we're in is that there's not as many unknowns. And though you do have to be cautious in trusting people and what they tell you when they're selling things, given this situation, I really appreciate the fact that I'm getting these from a trusted source, and then I know that I'm getting healthy animals. When you've built so much on your farm and you've established your flocks and your herds, and you have to be really cautious about just bringing any old animal in, because you can unintentionally risk the health of the ones you already have and care for, which on one level you're risking your financial investment, but on the other level you care for your animals and you don't want to risk their health at all, no matter what. I'm really glad though that these ladies are gonna have a man soon to get them with lamb. Hey cutie girl. I don't know what they're gonna think about that. I was feeling a little bit of an urgency. I've been looking for a ram. I'd found another one that I had just like casually inquired about, but in the photos that I got, I didn't love the condition. I had found it online. It was just an unconnected person. And I just did not love the condition in which it was being kept. I was concerned about biosecurity and health. I didn't want to risk bringing any disease. But these girls are now, they're about 20 months old. I wanted to get them bred soon, just because, it's time for them to start breeding. And I'm really excited. Lambing season. Can you even? I calm down. When I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love farming. I love animals. Oh, the little child in me just leaps at the joy of that. So yeah, that's my spiel. I know that was a lot of information, but I love to share our processes with you guys, because I think it's very beneficial. I love hearing people's processes. I've always loved that. It's why I like reading reviews so much. For anything I buy, I'll read 100 reviews, because I love to hear the process. And just because this is our process doesn't mean that it's going to be yours. You may do it completely different. You have different needs, different land, different time and resources, all the different things. But I think that whenever you hear how other people work through things, you can look at that and glean from it and apply what may help you. So that's it. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Let's see, it's the middle of the week now, so here in just the next handful of days we should be going to pick up our new girls and our new baby daddy. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. Bless you. Until next time.